was so emotional about it. And the message he was trying to put forth is that our Oba Eweka was actually born by an Igbo woman, and that the name is not Eweka, it is Eweka, which they have in one of those Igbo states. Eweka, Bukogidia, Abiana they talk. But the funny thing is, he's not the first to have started this. I've also come across the voice of one Igbo man, I don't know who he is, probably you know who he is, who actually said the same thing, who said that Oba Eweka was born by a Yoruba man and a Biafran woman. The name of the woman we don't know, they have refused to tell us. And well, so this video is to expose the birth of Oba Eweka I.
Oranmiyan came, met a very beautiful Biafran woman, and gave birth to a son. Impregnated a Biafran woman in Benin, today's Benin, and gave birth to a son. The son was now crowned Oba. Eweka I is a product of Igbo, so to speak. The name is Eweka, which sounds even because the mother gave birth and named the child Eweka, which is an Igbo name.
The monarchy of what will be later known as Benin Kingdom or Empire was actually established around 40 BC. 40 BC. That was Erimide. So Erimide was announced to have been pregnant. It was actually Oranmiyan who told the father that your daughter is pregnant and she is going to give birth to a son, and the son will become the next king of this kingdom. After a while, he left. It was after he left Benin Kingdom that he went to found Oyo Empire. Okay.
Thanks for clicking on this channel. Please subscribe to FO's blog history and click on the notification button so that whenever we upload a new video you will be notified. The origin of Oduduwa and Oba Eweka I. Exposing the lies of Igbo Biafrans and Yorubas. The Biafran Igbos and Yorubas have been distorting Benin's history, especially concerning the origin of Oduduwa and Oba Eweka I. We at FO's blog are here to put things in their right perspective. Before we listen to our brother Izomo Kakadu, let us highlight Ikaladerhan Oduduwa ties. The Yoruba historians have tacitly agreed that they do not know where Oduduwa originated. If you study deeply their version of Oduduwa's origin, you will discover that they have more than 4 versions of the origin of Oduduwa. Clearly, the Yorubas do not know where he came from. They, the Yorubas, and the Benins agreed that in the 10th century, the Benins sent emissaries to Ife to demand the return of Ikaladerhan, who they had renamed Oduduwa, to come back home to inherit his late father's throne. This part of the history is what the Yorubas know very well. It is not a myth as the origin of Oduduwa. Every historian of Yoruba origin is very proud to quickly agree that the Benins sent people to Ife to demand the return of Oduduwa. But why would a complete stranger whom you do not have blood ties with them, suddenly appear in your land and demand for a king? Did the Yoruba historians ever query this curious action of the Benins, formerly Ngodo-Migodo? To someone with an unbiased mind about this controversy, he will certainly suspect that the Benins must have had very strong reasons to come all the very long way from Benin to Ife just to demand for a king. Were there no people in Ngodo land who had the ability to become king? There is no division among the Benins about the true birthplace of Oduduwa's origin. It is not a myth, unlike the Yoruba version. In a book written by His Royal Majesty, Oba Eweka, I remain, Sir, your obedient servant, and the book written by His Royal Highness, Oduduwa Kenzuwa titled, Ikaladerhan. In their books, they stated clearly the origin of Oduduwa and Oba Eweka. Oba Eweka in never be wrong. The first sets of rulers of Benin, Ngodo-Migodo, were known as Ogiso, kings whose wisdom and rulership seems from above. Ogiso does not mean kings who fell from the sky, it is their wisdom, that the citizens termed heavenly. The first Ogiso was Ngodo, the last Ogiso was Owodo. It is Owodo's era that Ikaladerhan was given birth to in Benin City. The king, Owodo, married several wives, amongst them a treacherous which named Isago. She caused havoc in the palace by casting a spell that stemmed the reproduction of children by the king. However, the spell did not work against Ikaladerhan's mother, Inmade. Owodo sent people to visit an oracle to inquire into the mystery of the lack of proliferation of children in the palace. The wicked witch, Isako, got wind of the king's plans, and she hijacked the messengers who went to the diviner from the palace. The king's messengers had been told by the oracle that the evildoer was the wicked wife of the king named Isako, and that her blood must be sprinkled on the royal courtyard to cleanse the palace of her treachery. Isako performed a grand spell by removing her clothes in the presence of the messengers in an attempt to set them up for a rape charge before the king. The messengers had to succumb to her threat, turning the oracle's verdict upside down. They had to tell the king that Ikaladerhan was the culprit, that he is an Alidboter who after crossing the bridge burnt it. The king made a rash and hasty decision and asked the executioners to take his only son, Ikaladerhan, to a distant forest and be executed, thinking that, by so doing, his problem would be solved. The original messengers that were given the true verdict by the diviner quickly approached the executioners and pleaded for Ikaladerhan's life to be spared, that they had to protect him for the gods not to punish them in the future, for the blood of an innocent prince not to be on their hands. The executioners had pity on the boy. The executioners instead took a sword and cut the throat of a fowl and stained the sword with the fowl's blood. To prove that this really occurred, the village where the execution was to take place is named Horo Okoko, meaning, the throat of a fowl. The executioners came back to the palace and told the Ogiso that his orders had been carried out. Several years later the Ogiso's problem of childlessness did not abate. He later died in that state. Meanwhile, Ikaladerhan and his mother fled to a Benin village named Hugotan. The elders of Hugotan sheltered him and helped to save his life. The Benins were thrown into a stateless situation after the death of Owodo without an heir. The reason is that in Ngodo land no other person can ascend the throne other than the direct blue blood of an Oba or king. Although, a heroic nobleman named Elvian tried to seize power, but he was resisted by the elders on the ground that he had no blood ties to the late king. Meanwhile, Ikaladerhan had successfully escaped from the shores of Ngodo land and wandered afar towards the west of the country's border. He landed in an unknown town called Inle Ife. The exact story of how Ikaladerhan later emerged as a king in a stranger's land is not clear to any historian. But what is certain is that there was a civil war in Ife occasioned by a leadership crisis. That Ikaladerhan, Oduduwa, overthrew Obatala is a homogeneous history by all Yoruba historians. He later adopted a name Nzadua, which the Ife Yorubas corrupted to Oduduwa meaning I chose the way that led to my glory. Back home, the stateless situation erupted in Ngodo land in a civil war. The elders sought the help of a powerful oracle who divined that Ikaladerhan was not dead, and that he was still alive. A search party comprising of very senior chiefs had to be sent to the west of the country's borders to fetch him to return home. True to the verdict of the oracle, the search party discovered him at Ife. To be sure that he was Ikaladerhan, their exiled prince, they threw several questions at him about past events at Ngodo land. He gave correct answers to their test. Satisfied that the person was their lost prince demanded he followed them back home to be crowned king. By this time he was not sure of their promise and he was too old to travel. There is no historical account ever written, even by Yoruba historians, that points to the fact that Ife ever conquered the Benin kingdom. In most historical accounts of colonialization, it is when one nation conquers another that a king or a governor is imposed on the subjugated country. The request by the Benins that Oduduwa should return to their country to rule was not an action predicated on fear of a colonial power. No historical record ever pointed to Ife as an empire. It is empires that usually colonize other nations and force a foreign ruler on the conquered territory. If Oranmiyan invaded Ngodo as some misguided and miserable Igbos and Yorubas postulated, how come the Benin elders nurtured and took care of his child, Eweka, until he became the Oba, after Oranmiyan left Benin, when his wife was pregnant of Eweka? Who does that? Please listen and watch Izomo Kakadu as he gives his perspective about the origin of Oduduwa and Oba Eweka.
Hi, my name is Izomo Kakadu. Welcome back to my page. This video is the second episode to the last one I dropped, which I titled Igbo Saga. If you've seen that video, you see that it has nothing to do with saga. I don't do saga, I'm not a saga people. But it's just a video to try to correct or debunk some fallacies and propaganda that are being spread by some Igbo elements, So this is to debunk one out of the many propagandas that they are spreading recently. You know, I for one, I love videos on wildlife. I like wildlife videos, especially those ones on warthogs. You know, and those animals we generally refer to as bush pigs. I love such videos. So some time ago, I was on Facebook and I came across a video that I actually thought was on warthog or bush pig. So I opened the video, but unfortunately, just few seconds into the video, I discovered that it was not a video on bush pig. So it was just this, my Igbo brother here, you know, crying and whining and complaining. And he was so emotional. He was so emotional about it. And the message he was trying to put forth is that our Oba Eweka was actually born by an Igbo woman, and that the name is not Eweka, it is Eweka, which they have in one of those Igbo states. Eweka, Bukogidia, Abiana they talk. But the funny thing is, he's not the first to have started this. I've also come across the voice of one Igbo man, I don't know who he is, probably you know who he is, who actually said the same thing, who said that Oba Eweka was born by a Yoruba man and a Biafran woman. The name of the woman we don't know, they have refused to tell us. And well, so this video is to expose the birth of Oba Eweka I.
Oromyan came, met a very beautiful Biafran woman, and gave birth to a son. Impregnated a Biafran woman in Benin, today's Benin, and gave birth to a son. The son was now crowned Oba. Eweka I is a product of Igbo, so to speak. The name is Eweka, which sounds even because the mother gave birth and named the child Eweka, which is an Igbo name.
The monarchy of what will be later known as Benin Kingdom or Empire was actually established around 40 BC. 40 BC. That was when the kingdom was called Igodo, and the rulers were referred to as Ogiso. We had 31 rulers in that first dynasty. That's 31 Ogiso, and the first one was Ogiso Igodo. So it was actually Ogiso Igodo whom the kingdom was named after, Igodo Migodo. 31, the first being Ogiso Igodo, and the last one was Ogiso Owodo. It happened that during the reign of Ogiso Owodo, he had just one surviving son and heir to the throne, just one surviving son, and something happened that demanded that the only heir to the throne, by the name of Ikaladerhan, his only son was Ikaladerhan, also known as Oduduwa. He was to be executed. I will spare you the details, for time constraints. I've narrated this story over and over again in my past videos. So the only son and heir to the throne of Ikodomigodo was to be executed, but the executioners had mercy on him and they actually let him go, but not without a promise. He was made to promise for his life that he will never in his lifetime step foot into the kingdom again. So when his life was spared, Ikaladerhan ran as fast and as far as he could. The first place he settled when he left the city, the kingdom's capital, was a place referred to as Uroton. He inhabited the place and formed a little town there, so that even till date, the place is still referred to as Igbo Ikaladerhan. That's how it has been called for a very long time, and up till now, many people still refer to it as Igbo Ikaladerhan, popularly known as Uroton. For those of you who read, if you've read some books that are written by Europeans about the Benin Kingdom, when they make reference to Ugoton, you see they call it Guato. Guato. All right, so that is actually Ugoton. So that was the first place Ikaladerhan settled. But it got to a time that he began to see people from the kingdom in his place, in his little town. So he was scared that word might come back to the kingdom and the people might know that he's actually alive and not executed. So he ran. He picked up his things, picked up his people, some of his people, and left Igbo Ikaladerhan or Ugoton, but not without leaving his son there. He left his son to be the king of that place. So till today, as we speak, you can go to Ugoton. I know some of the descendants, the present Duke Nogi of Ugoton. I know one of his daughters, and we talk all the time. They even have their grievances, but that is a story for another time. Okay, so he left his son there to reign over the people there, and kept running. He ended up at today's Ile-Ife. Even before then, it is said that he even settled at one time at Igala. If you meet the people of Igala, the elders of Igala or their rulers, they will tell you that they met Ikaladerhan. They met Ikaladerhan, that he was in Igala. He was there for a while, he even married and had children there. Now, he finally settled at Ile-Ife and became king there. So it is actually Ikaladerhan or Oduduwa, whom the Yoruba corrupt as Oduduwa. But like our father would say, it is not in our place to tell other people's history. So I'm just telling it from my own point of view, from the point of view of our own accounts. So back to Igodomigodo, it happened that something happened and Owodo had to leave the throne. In fact, he was banished, all right? And the throne became empty. If you've been following all my stories, you realize that during Igodomigodo, the era of Igodomigodo or the first dynasty, it was just the monarch and some set of elders. There were no chieftaincy titles, there were no chiefs as at then. So it was just the Ogiso and the Edion, the people that are today referred to as the Uzama. All right. So the Edion, as at this time, were 5 in number. They were Edionisen, referred to as Edionisen, meaning the 5 elders. And the job, the primary task, the primary duty of these elders was to make sure, till date, they are not Uzama, they are 7 in number now, till date, their job is to make sure that there is continuity in the monarchy of the kingdom. So when they were faced with this challenge, they had to do something. So who do we put here? Who do we, crown as our king? Luckily for everybody, they later heard that Ikaladerhan was not dead. Ikaladerhan was alive. So they had to form a search party to look for Ikaladerhan. And this search party was headed by the head of this Edionisen, Olia. Most of you know Olia. The Edionisen then, they were Olia, Edoen, Eo, there was Eholonire and Ezomo. You see, those were the 5 elders. So the search party went, searched and searched, not just a day, not 2, for a long time, for a very long time. And in the end, they found themselves at Ile-Ife. They met Ikaladerhan, Oduduwa. Hey, sir, your throne is empty. You have to come back home. Ikaladerhan or Oduduwa told them that there was no way he could come back for 2 primary reasons. Number 1 of which is the fact that he promised the people who spared his life that he was never to set foot on the kingdom or in the kingdom ever again. And then the second reason was the fact that he was old. He decided to change his mind. Even if he decided to shove his word, he couldn't do it, come back all the way from Ile-Ife back to Igodomigodo. After much pressure, he had to let one of his sons come with the Edionisen, the elders, to become king in the kingdom. You see, still the same bloodline. All right. But that was not very easy. He needed, first of all, trust them, So what he did, he gave them what we call the lies test. The lies test. So he gave them some lies that if they were able to take care of those lies, in a period of time that he gave them and brought the lies back, he would be then assured that they would be able to take care of his son. So Olia took that task upon himself, took those lies, got home, and put the lies on the head of some of his servants or slaves, if you like. And when it was time, he returned. Those lies were fed and now robust back to Oduduwa. So when Oduduwa was satisfied, he gave the Edionisen his son by the name of Oranmiyan, whom the Edo people also refer to as Omononya. Okay, understand something. While they went in search of Ikaladerhan, the Edionisen did not leave the kingdom empty. They did not leave the kingdom, ungoverned or something like that. So they had to look for a way out. So what they did was to look for someone who would be an administrator, not a king, not Ogiso, nothing, just an administrator over the kingdom while they were away. And they chose the person of Evian, an elder statesman known as Evian. It got to a point in time where Evian actually became power drunk. Power the switch where we're now. You don't want to leave power. In fact, he wanted to become king. He wanted to become Ogiso. And the people of Igbo said, Esunu, you are not Ogiso. You are not in any way related to the Ogiso dynasty or family. There is no way you become Ogiso. So he was still trying, he was fighting, so that he was even preparing his son to take after him when he joined his ancestor. So his son was nicknamed Ogiamien. So the Ogiamien that you know today, that many people speak of, that many people add in their fallacies, is actually the son of Evian. Ogiamien was not the person put there, it was his father, Evian, who was put there. Their palaces are still here in Benin and they are very close. Evian Palace is there, Ogiamien's palace is there. All right. So it happened that the Ogiamien family and Evian family actually became very powerful. They had a very large part of the kingdom, especially the Utantan area, today's Sokbomba Road area. That's where their palace was and still is. So when Oranmiyan was being ushered into the city, he met a lot of resistance. Not just from the Ogiamien, but especially from the Ogiamien. Met a lot of resistance, but at the end of the day, they succeeded. They overpowered the Ogiamien, and Oranmiyan was taken to the palace, the old palace, not the new one. The palace as at then was at Osama. It is actually Usama. It's actually at today's Siloko Road. Once you enter Siloko Road, there is a traditional land there, very close to Travis School. All right. So that's where the palace was. It was actually Oba Eweka who moved the palace from that position to Adesogbe, where it is today. So Oranmiyan was taken to that palace, but many, if not most historians, will tell you that Oranmiyan was never crowned king. Something you should also know is the fact that Oduduwa did not just send Oranmiyan with the Edion. He sent some trusted people from Ile-Ife with his son. People I even have reason to believe might also be some of the people who left with him from Uhoton. Right, that does not matter right now. It sends some people like Ilawure. The Ilawure, to the Ilawure of Usen was sent along with Oranmiyan. You have Oloton, and for each person he sent with Oranmiyan, he gave a task, a particular task. So for Oloton, for example, he told Oloton to make sure that his son is crowned king. That is why Ewedo actually just added Oloton in time. He added Oloton to the Ejionisen to this Uzama, because the job of Oloton and the job of Ejionisen, they were the same. Like they were the same. It was the same thing. So just go and join your people. One other person that was sent with Oranmiyan, today's Bamawo. If you know Benin very well, you know Bamawo. There's still a street where you call Bamawo, between Mission Road and what was that? Akpakpava. Okay, there's a Bamawo street there. Now that family of Bamawo is just a corruption. The word Bamawo, the name Bamawo, is a corruption from Bamiwo. Bamiwo. I used to pronounce it wrongly. I say Bamiwo. I asked my mom recently and she pronounced it very well, because the way I pronounced it meant something else. Bamiwo. And Bamiwo, my Yoruba brothers here would interpret better. According to what I heard, Bamiwo, for those who understand Yoruba, means help me look after this child, or look after this child for me. You see? So Bamawo, the Bamawo family, corrupted from Bamiwo, was actually the one Oduduwa sent with Ikaladerhan and said, please, this boy, keep an eye on this boy, keep an eye on Oranmiyan for me. So Oranmiyan came. Oranmiyan was at the palace, and he was there. But the fact is, Oranmiyan was very frustrated. Reasons being that, first of all, whether you like it or not, he might have had Edo blood. His father was from Igodo, but he was born and bred in the Yoruba society, today's Yoruba society. So the language he understood most, of course, was actually Yoruba. All right. So communicating with our people was a problem for him. That was a major problem. Communication. He couldn't communicate well. And to be honest, we Edo people, we get the way we take the normal level. We get the way we take the. We know they take rubbish like that. You understand? So he was very frustrated. And when it was time, when he got here, he had to leave. He picked up his things and said he was leaving. And he said something. He said that only someone who is born and bred in the society with these people can rule them. Only someone who is born inside the kingdom and bred, trained inside the kingdom will be able to rule the people of Igodo. So out of frustration, he referred to the land as Ile Binu. You know, I will tell you the way it is. I will tell you the truth as I know it. I will not twist anything to maybe suit myself or my people. Some of my people might not like this, but this is the truth. Out of frustration, and from what I understand, Ile Binu means or translates as land of frustration. And that was simply because he was frustrated while he was here, which is why he decided to leave. Now, on his way back, also understand, please, Ile Binu and Ubini are two different things. They are two different terms. Ubini was actually the capital of the kingdom of Igodo. It had been there, it had existed. Ubini was like the city center, was like the administrative center of the kingdom. So Ile Binu and Ubini have no bearing with each other. Oranmiyan picked up and left. And on his way, he got to the palace of Ogego. Ego is still very much in Benin City here. It's now very open. For those of you that know Ego, if you go through Siloko Road, down Siloko Road, you will get to Ego. The Duke of Ego actually hosted Oranmiyan, and he was there for a while. While he was there, bros I can enter one fine girl, the daughter of Ogiego. And Ogiego, of course, allowed his daughter to be with Oranmiyan. So Oranmiyan had the daughter of Ogiego in the family way. The daughter of Ogiego was named Emide. A name. This is the daughter, this is the woman some Igbo miscreants are now saying was an Igbo woman. I don't know how managed, I don't know how Igbo. I don't know if they existed then. That is to start with. I don't know if they existed because I'm telling you about late 12th century. Late 12th century. I don't know if they existed then, and if they existed, I don't know how they got to Ego in Edo, in Igodomigodo here, the city center here in Benin. They said they have not told us the name of the woman, they only just said Biafra woman. So the name of the daughter of Ogego was Erimide. So Erimide was announced to have been pregnant. It was actually Oranmiyan who told the father that your daughter is pregnant and she is going to give birth to a son, and the son will become the next king of this kingdom. After a while, he left. It was after he left Benin Kingdom that he went to found Oyo Empire. Okay, so back to Igodomigodo. Erimide was, in fact, they carry like egg. They carry like egg. The mosquito, not they bite them, you know. So he was being catered for. Edigin, yes, Edigin was one of the people who was actually sent with Oranmiyan by Oduduwa or Ikaladerhan. So Erimide was actually nursed and catered for in the house of Edigin. And then when it was time, she had Oba Eweka's son. And when the son was growing up, he did not talk. Now, a message was sent to Oranmiyan at Oyo to inform him of the development. And Oranmiyan told them, he prophesied, he told them that the son will talk. He said in time, the son will talk. But they had to perform some rituals. And the rituals, one of the rituals, or the last of the ritual, was just to play what we call Ahwe. Ahwe in English translates as marble seed. Marble seed. When I was growing up, I played that game very well. You take marble seed, you set different portions, just like the way they set tomatoes for market. You go arrange them 3 for down, you can put 1 for top. Depends on how many marble seeds you have. You can set 3 portions for yourself, and another person will sit opposite you on the floor and set the same portions. 3. If you have 3 portions, the person will also have 3 portions. Then you might leave just 3 marble seeds to throw. So you keep throwing against each other's marble seeds to try to hit the seeds. So the person who loses his seed first loses the game. That's the game. So it got to that day, the game was set for the young king or the young prince and another child. They started playing the game. Just to cut the story short, he actually won with very slight chance. He was actually losing, and he had just 1 marble seed left in his hand. If he had thrown that marble seed and did not hit the last marble seed of his opponent, the opponent would have won him. So he held the seed, shook it, did all he had to do and threw it. And actually he hit the last marble seed of the opponent. With that excitement, with that joy, he jumped up and screamed, Owonika. So the first word that came out of his mouth was Owonika. Owonika. And I know some people will not be very happy with this, but this is the truth. And I will not tell you anything more or less than the truth. And any Edo person who has Edo blood flowing through his veins would tell you the same thing. They wouldn't mind, because Edo is known for truth. So we wouldn't say because maybe some set of people might feel good, might have blown the head, or might want to massage your ego with this, that we will not say the truth anymore. No, nothing should deter us from saying the truth. So I say it again. The first word that came out from the child's mouth was Owomika. And from translations, I think it means They say that it means my arm has struck it, or my arm has hit it, or something like that. My Yoruba brothers and those who understand Yoruba very well will translate better. So that is the first word that came out of his mouth. And you know, once it was said, everybody jumped up, everybody, room was lit, everybody was jubilating. Hey, Oye, he has spoken, he has said something. Only for them to realize later, when everywhere had calmed down, that they did not pay attention to what the young man had said. They didn't pay attention. So it was when they were now asking, what did this young man say? Because the father had told us that the first word that will come out from the child's mouth will be taken as his titular name, will be given to him as his name. So now, nobody remembers, nobody paid attention to what he said. But everyone is happy that he said something. So it was after much chaos, running from here and there, that an elderly man, an old man stood up and said, everybody calm down. I heard what he said. And when he was asked, he said, the child said, Eweka. So actually, the word or name Eweka was actually corrupted from the expression Owomika. This is the truth and nothing but the truth. I know some of my brothers from the other side will be very happy now. So you should now know that I will not lie to you, irrespective of whatever. We are not born to lie. We are not trained to lie. So when we also say some truth that you might not like, just don't like it. But it shouldn't change the fact that it is the truth. All right. So we are about the truth. So this is how Oba Eweka no Cow, or Oba Eweka the First, was born and named Oba Eweka. So these, I don't know how come these miscreants say that Oba Eweka is Eweka.
Oranmiyan has a son which is called Eweka. Eweka finally became the first king of Benin, the first Oba of Benin.
Is Eweka, and he was born by a Yoruba man and a Biafran woman. First of all, I don't know if Biafra, I don't even know if you existed then. I'm sorry to say, I'm not saying you didn't. I'm only saying I don't know, because no history tells us such. Because I'm talking about in the late 12th century. Late 12th century, that is the period I'm talking about here. So if you were already in existence then, I actually do not know. And even if you were, I wonder what you came to do at Ego. I wonder what you came to do at Ego. That you're saying that a Yoruba man and a Biafran woman, a Biafran woman. I don't know how Biafran woman got to Ego, if there's anything like Biafra ever existed. How a Biafran woman got to Ego. Maybe the Biafran woman flew in your Atulupete.
Now, before you have aircraft, the Igbo people have already practiced what we call Atulupete, a cosmic vehicle through which our ancestors came from the other astral plane.
Maybe you got there through your Atulupete. The Biafran woman's name you have not given. You don't know. You've not given us the name. Now I am telling you, the name of Oba Eweka the First is Erimide, the daughter of Ogiego. So Oba Eweka became the first, or should I say second. Remember that I told you that Oba Oromiyan was not crowned. According to most historians, Oba Oromiyan was not crowned. He was not crowned, which is why most historians, not most historians, there is no historian that recognizes Oba Oromiyan as the first Oba in our second dynasty. No historian. This changed in 2016 during the coronation of our great king Oba Eweka in 2006. Oba Atokbe, in 2016, during his coronation, he was the one who pronounced Oba Oromiyan as the first. That was when everything changed. If you look at our history books, proud to 2016, there is no book that puts Oba Oromiyan as the first Oba. So this is the event that culminated in the birth of Oba Eweka I. So please, for those of you who come across these fallacious videos and all these videos of propaganda, please pay no mind to them. Pay no mind to them. So that is the account of the birth of Oba Eweka. I hope to see you again very soon. Till then, stay safe. Obedoyaga Tokbe. Ise.
Igbon rare huazuduoru razo we gabu gabu. Edo ye odion. Igbon ri edo ya roba nedo. Osokedo degwenuko. Oforyan uropo tabo bere okaimba. Urere ekekere bogodogbon igbon ni pikolo. Uwu ke ga gbokanyan ge ebude ti e. To te nu ge yaru awe hun ire leyin. Agun meta mi gbon gbogbo e. Iwu ropo tanedo omode erin. Bene guaba nedo na erin edion. Wèrè ga sẹ́ ìyàrá kì í bí ẹnì kan.